What's up, WWE Champions Universe? Welcome to Champions Chat, the fastest growing podcast dedicated to the WWE Champions mobile game. I'm Haku, Rusty Graves, and with me as always, Andre the Giant, Lee Brown.
Oh,
What's
that's
up,
such a
Lee?
good. The Colossal Connection was one of my favorites.
Oh,
Have you
yeah.
ever heard the stories about Andre where he talks about he only feared literally like two men in his entire life, and Haku was one of them?
One was Haku, right?
Yeah. What's up, me
They
wired up?
they they talked a little bit about Haku's lore at this year's Hall of Fame induction ceremony, saying
Yeah.
that like he's sitting 2 seats away from you. Yeah, they were like making
Yeah.
threats.
Right.
Um, but that might have been the greatest as far as like IRL, who's gonna beat you up. That might have been
Right.
the most credible threat in all of professional wrestling history. As far
Right.
as like who could destroy, could you imagine punching Andre the Giant?
Yeah.
Um,
In real life.
where would the punch even land? Like, could you reach
His
his
belly.
head, and would the punch even phase him at all? Didn't that happen
Right.
on The Princess Bride, where someone tries to
Yeah.
box him
Yeah.
and he just then he clap his ears or something?
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
Well, what are we doing on the show today, Rusty? We got to keep a tight 1 hour time
That's
frame.
right.
So, what are we
Well,
doing?
most importantly is we have a community spotlight today, so we're gonna have a little bit of a shorter episode on our end. Splice in the community spotlight. Lee is going to be sitting down and interviewing a friend, but also an enemy, because he's across the aisle from us in feud. Right, you might get paired up with him, and you might have seen his name on a leaderboard a time or two. The ever-present Two Bob, a staple
Yeah.
in the champions community. So I
Yeah.
called him an
Well,
enemy, but that was only in feud only, right?
well, I mean, we do address in the interview in the spotlight segment. So you're one of the more divisive players in the community. You want to talk about that, and he does. So,
Oh wow,
we're not afraid to go there, and Two Bob wasn't afraid to go there either. So.
nice,
Yeah, and then
nice.
next week we've got Pokemaster Hunter on the spotlight, and then we've got Flex. So it'll be a few weeks
Oh,
of spotlights
so
actually.
you're telling me we are featuring essentially the leaders of the basically current number one and number two factions as they stand in the
Yeah.
faction leaderboards, and we've got them. Those are some hot gets for our podcast. That's really exciting.
Well, there you go. There you go.
Nice,
Well, what else are we
nice.
doing today?
Well, we're going to do a few things. We're going to just briefly hit on our thoughts on the WWE Champions TV. I mean, WWE
Champions TV.
TV. Our take on what we're seeing post Money in the Bank, Cena's retirement, Rhea's return. If you have any burning sensations about any of that, and we're talking about a brand new month-long contest, Lee, and it is
Yeah.
called the Summer of Darkness. Ozzy is in the
Oh,
game.
I've just got to throw it out there though, real quick. One of my favorite bands of all time, Demon Hunter. One of their best albums is Summer of Darkness. This isn't it. This
Oh,
is Exile.
nice.
But
Nice.
so if you see this logo show up in any of our stuff, I'm sneaking it into things to remind people. Summer
Very
of
cool.
Darkness is a great album.
And that's an unopened vinyl, right? That's a shrink
Yeah.
wrap vinyl record for the youngsters that maybe don't have a grandpa that has records.
No, no, records are hot. Records are hot
Are
again
they
right
back?
now. Yeah,
You
they're
know,
way back. My wife has Taylor Swift records that she buys instead of.
wow.
I mean, she has download. I mean, Spotify and Apple
Right.
Music, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, Summer of Darkness by Demon Hunter. If you're into heavy metal music, really, really solid album. So anyway,
Thanks. Thanks
what
for
were we
the
talking
rec.
about?
Well, I'll tell you this. My favorite Ozzy Osbourne song. It's not
Yeah.
a Black Sabbath song, so I won't say Sabbath. I'll go specific to Ozzy's catalog as a solo artist.
Okay.
My favorite song from his repertoire is kind of a B-side. It's a little known track unless you really have followed Ozzy for a while. It's called Demon Alcohol, and it's a
Huh.
song about basically going out and partying and drinking some of that absinthe and getting all worked up into a tizzy. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Interesting.
He tracks. Well, Lee, we're also going to just touch on a few things with the free-to-play community, because I was a longtime free-to-play player, and also that'll probably be tied into, as we talk about the new MLC, our notes and observations for the free-to-play community. There was a really interesting conversation that popped up on our Discord this week, and it was a free-to-play player saying, essentially, hey, I feel like I'm being left behind. At times, the game can feel like it's really catered to spenders, and I'm not a spender. And then, in a surprising turn of events, multiple free-to-play players came out and said, "Well, here's what I like about the game. Here's how I'm engaging. Here's how I'm getting the most out of it." So I may read some of their comments, but also just share some of our own thoughts about that.
Right. Yeah, let's do it.
Pretty cool. Well, Lee, Ozzy is here, and you told me earlier that this has been our most viewed video that we've ever made. All of our content we've ever done. Yeah. It's on track. I guess it's on track to be our most viewed, which tells me the community is very, very interested in what's happening with Ozzy. And maybe there's even people that are apart from the game that might see an Ozzy thumbnail and be interested in video game Ozzy Osbourne and how that works. Give me your first thoughts, your first take on, you've spent some time playing with Ozzy. Why do you think he's uniquely appealing to the community and so forth?
Well, I mean, I think the whole aesthetic of the month, like with the church with the gargoyles and all the, like the ring being replaced. I mean, it's just fun. I always love when they do these crossover events. I know some people don't care for them as much, but when there was the Rocky events, the zombie events, it's just a pace breaker in that. And this, this feels fun. Plus, Ozzy himself, I love the way they're doing this. I don't know if they'll continue to do it later, but during this month, Ozzy is obtainable, very, very obtainable for free. If somebody says, I can't get him, they're not playing, because with free-to-play milestones, you may not get him for a week, but, I mean, that 4-star version of him is available pretty early on. A lot of people get it. And he's really good. So what you were saying, so our 3-minute moveset video of Ozzy is tracking to be our highest viewed video ever. And I think part of that is because everybody's getting him and everybody's excited. I love the weird aesthetic. Like, he kind of has moves that are more like what you would see in the mutant characters in the game. Like, he shoots the laser beam and he does the like Raiden fire, rain of lightning, and it's just neat. But also the fact that he's really good, and the path to getting him is exciting for me, because everybody's going to get him 4-star. And
he's the first milestone in the collector contest, the very first milestone of the collector's contest. That's wacko, Jacko, if you ask me. I can't believe they didn't bump him back a few more.
Yeah,
because
that's what you would expect.
Right.
Yeah. Right. And he's A tier, so like he's not, S plus tier or whatever. But watch our Break It Down video, which is also tracking extremely well in views. Watch our Break It Down video. He's worth taking to 6-star gold. I'll show that in a different video still, but he's hitting some not quite like Powerhouse KO levels, but also very high levels of damage. So
I just love Ozzy because he's went from somebody that I was actually forbidden to listen to as a child because my mom grew up in the hidden messages in the records era.
Right? Backward masking.
Yeah. My mom was like a hardcore evangelical. Like, she would not let us listen to anything, rock and roll related. And so, but then for Ozzy to go from like, what do they call him, the Lord of Darkness, and now to be kind of a pop culture icon. His wife has been a guest on America's Got Talent. His kids have talk shows. His son Jack. So it's like this really. The Osbournes, I've kind of grown up with them. I think his kids are a little younger than us, but it feels like we've kind of come into adulthood around the same time, around the same kind of MTV era.
Right.
So I'm excited to play with Ozzy. I got him at 4 silver, and I don't know what the mess to do with him just yet because I want to take him higher. But I really liked that free 24-hour kickoff tour that we got with him, and there were things available. So Lee, let me just ask you that as a segue question. Okay, so Ozzy was free.
Right.
Today is Thursday, July 11th. At Reset, we will get Julius Creed for free. That's
Wait, what?
number one. Yeah, at the 4 days of the collection,
Not
you collect
Julius
20
Creed.
shards.
Not Julius
Brutus.
Creed. There
Brutus,
you go.
thank you.
We could talk him
We
in a
will get
minute, but
Brutus Creed,
yeah.
powerhouse Brutus Creed. So
Right.
this is week one, and we're talking about two new superstars,
Yep.
one of which being potentially a 6-star gold worthy trickster, which there
Right.
are not many. A
Right.
second being powerhouse, which is a tough class to come
It
by
is.
for free to play.
Right.
Are things looking up for free to play players in the game with this new 6-star? Let's say, are they looking up compared to the last 6-star silver MLC, which was we didn't get Razar, right? That was
Right.
the cry of the community was we totally missed out on Razar. I didn't max. I didn't get Razar. Let's talk about now we're 3 MLCs into this new 6 gold. What do you think life is like for a free-to-play player?
Well, what you referenced earlier, so our friend Hip Designer mentioned like it feels harder for free to play, and then a group of people came around and said, actually, I'm free to play and I'm getting a lot more. I think what they've done is finding a greater balance. There's reasons to chase the higher end things like your Trish, like your, in this case, this month, powerhouse Cody Rhodes. The people who are going to go for the top prizes are there. There's resources to chase. So like with my favorite feature of the new world is the midweek month-long prize wall. And that has been something that's there, that you can get something off of. Even if it's not the top thing, you get something. And I think that's kind of the new ethos is everybody can at least get something. So I would say Ozzy is my favorite trickster in the game. Not just from he's fun, but damage, style, moveset, build.
That's crazy.
Everything. I think he's my favorite trickster, at least for males, but probably for both in the game. And not only are you going to get him free, but if you keep playing the event, you're going to be able to get him up to 6-star gold for free.
That's crazy.
Now, you're probably going to have to spend to get to the 6-star gold level. I get that. But after the month, they've confirmed, at least so far, subject to change, they're not going to Santa Hogan him. He'll go back to normal tokens. So you get him, think of all you're saving on your fuse ups. Think of all the resources you're saving by getting him however far. Plus, you have the A tier. We've got somebody in the chat who said, I haven't maxed the last 2 months. But the chase to the A tier, I would say, is easier overall than the chase to the old S tiers were. I think Miz is a good example. Lots of people got there. You're not going to get everything, like Sensei's saying here, but you're getting something.
Go ahead and read that. Read that quote, because I think that's
Sure.
important to hear, especially for our audio listeners.
Yeah. So first time in chat, Sensei Crease says, anyone who says that free-to-play players aren't getting everything clearly didn't play in the before times when almost everyone free-to-play or free-to-win got very little. So I've talked for a lot. Let me finish up my thought, and I'll just turn it over to you for a stretch. But think back, and I mentioned this to Hip as well, think back to the days like when I was mainly free to play and I don't even think I was in the Black Pearl. I think I was in like Bad Wolf starter faction where there was no leadership. I just hopped into it. I remember that I had to grind for almost 8 hours to get Sting, which Sting was very important at the time. It was MP Trainer and they just added some of those type things. But the best get I had for probably 2 years as a free-to-play player was Zombie AJ Styles during one of the Halloween events. that was it. Like that was my best
Yeah.
get in 2 years. Now you've got the 6 star gold coins that you can get to. You've got Ozzy. You've got a path to the A tier character, even if it's not, everybody gets them. They're still there. So I would say it's hugely more open to free to play. What's your thoughts, Rusty?
Oh, I felt when you read that when you said that last thing, I kind of did the RVD thumbs because I was like, "That's me." I was free to play for over 5 years in the game. I played competitive Magic the Gathering. That's where all of my hobby money went. And I played tournaments. I traveled to play. I was a TCG guy. I was just a card guy, and I played this game for fun on the side, right? And so I would played for free, even though I was in a faction that was semi-competitive. Actually, in the early days, I was in very competitive factions. I was a grinder, and then came back to the game, played in semi-competitive, and then I just realized I was having a lot more fun playing Champions than Magic, and so I just basically shifted my hobbies, my interests, the time I was putting in one game into another, and so let me, rather than me just rattle off my thoughts and feelings, because we do that all the time. I'd love to read you a few of these comments that were, I think, encouraging to one. They were trying to encourage this free to play guy, right? So,
Sure.
so Skier says, I am free to play and quite happy at what's available. They make lots of the events grindable, and with a good faction, you can max many events. On solo events, I usually get 1 or 2 bonus milestones past the gold chest milestone. I've maxed the MLC, collection contest, and got Miz. Spenders get more, and I think
Yep.
that's okay.
Yep.
Right? Another comment. Let me see who sent this one. I can't, for some reason, my Discord is like only showing me the first letter of certain names. But this person said, I'm free to play, and I have been from the start. Yes, I have spent a few times over near 4 years of play, such as the wrong megas for $20.
Yeah.
So that was probably the Tech Cody oopsie, right? Or offers for $10,
Among others.
which have happened a few times. But I do think the recent changes to MLC since 6 star gold month have made it easier to get the MLC chase if you play the game regularly. And then he said, to put this into context, it took me about 9 months playing from scratch to get my first MLC chase. Took me a lot longer than that. Then it became normal for me to get the MLC chase. After some more months, they made it harder, but with the web coins being usable to buy MLC points, I started maxing chase once again. Then when they took it away, I stopped maxing MLC for a while, but now that 6 star gold is here, it means even if I don't max the MLC, I can still get a chase. It's
Right.
just another evolution of the game.
Yep.
Thoughts on any of that? Responses to any of that?
Yeah, so I do, and to one that's in the comments section right here, real quick. But I would say, again, it took me a lot longer than 8 months to get my first chase. My first one was Zombie Bobby Lashley, and I had been playing the game at least 2, if not 3 Halloweens before that. So it probably took me 2 or 3 years to get my first chase, and even then it was very hit or miss. It wasn't until after that that I got consistently hitting them. So I would say, yeah, I'm definitely not free to play now, and I haven't been for some time, but I was mostly in the beginning, or dropped $20 here and there, so maybe a minnow, as we say, never a whale in that sense, but I spent a little bit, and my best, like, okay, so when we first started this channel, I did a series that was my roster through history, because I had taken pictures and videos of my roster at different points, like for no other reason than I loved it, right? And so I went back through, and if you look through the first 2 years of my roster history, the very best character on my roster was Zombie AJ, Tech DDP, Paige, the female showboat version of her, and etc. And so there was a lot of times where I was running, like Sting was my best striker for years, and it got to a point where I couldn't win anything, unfortunately, but I didn't have better. And then I got Million Dollar Man striker version in NWO Ted DiBiase, and he opened up the ceiling for me, but he was still also terrible, etc. Now, like, you look at what's been offered free, you look at what they've given out, just the fact that they gave away Finn Balor. We did a video, it came out today actually, should you take Finn Balor 6-star gold? They gave away him plus his gear to everybody. If you're a free-to-play player, you have a top showboat, period.
Right.
You have Ozzy, top trickster, period. Like, among thee, that is. You've got 6-star gold opportunities. You're maybe not get every one of them, but if you even get 1 coin, 2 coins you're guaranteed to get a 6-star gold. Think about how much my roster would have changed when I was free to play and hadn't maxed an MLC if I had gotten a what would have been at the equivalent of the time of 6-star gold. I think it was 4-star gold was where I came in, or something like that. If I had gotten a 4-star gold back in the day, I would have been jumping for joy. It didn't matter who it was. That would have changed my roster. So, yeah. And then real quick to the Phenon Gaming says last 3 free-to-play players, Andrade, Maurice, and Brutus, are all below par compared to the previous ones. I agree. The structure of the free B tier is not like it was when it was anyone from Shotzi to Dakota to Ghostbuster Cena to, the free character has gotten worse, but the A tier character has become infinitely more accessible. I'm not saying everybody's getting them, but your final boss Rock,
compare Final Boss Rock to Chelsea Green. Compare those two, right?
Right.
Compare Rock and Roman to The Miz, right? How many people, especially free-to-play players, were able to lock in a Rock and Roman? I mean, Lee, you spent and you didn't get Rock and Roman for like months, right?
I chased him hard and I didn't get Rock and Roman. Yeah, A tier. I didn't get Chelsea Green until a week or 2 ago. Period.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're A tier Showdown Weekend superstars.
Right.
Which is the equivalent of your Miz, of your Final Boss.
Tiffy time.
Tiffy, right? So I think what we're seeing is, if I evaluate Final Boss and Miz as the standalones, right? If I say, okay, but this is a pattern I'm noticing. I don't want to say this is the way Scopely's doing things now, but Miz had a plate, Final Boss had a plate. Final Boss had a moment, Miz had a moment. It's very possible, friends, that we might see a Tiffy moment and or a Tiffy plate as early as next week. That was week 2 of the MLC when the midweek went live, Lee. So is this conjecture, or do you have any intel on this, or? Because I'm seeing your
lip readers might know something, but I can either confirm or deny that is the case.
But I don't know what it is. But all I'm saying is like okay, so the A tier is easier to get, not as powerful, but is supported now with things that are attainable in the midweek contest.
Yep.
You can actually attain, like, I can still get Final Boss's moment, the story finished with Cody. I could get it this month, arguably, if I saved all my midweek coins.
William Regal gear month, baby.
Yeah, right?
That's all it is for me. William Regal's gear. That's the only goal.
Last month, right? The Miz plate, free-to-play players were, the Miz moment. Free-to-play players were able to recruit the Miz and purchase his moment without spending.
Yep. And let's talk about that real quick, too. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, because not only, like, let's say you didn't get the Miz, but you have I'ma Get Him Jey Uso, and with that moment and his feud moments, he is now one of the better feuders. I mean, up there, at least. You have access to striker Bobby Lashley. He has been available on the more free-to-play side for a little while, and he is now one of the top. Embrace the Vision Seth. I'm pretty sure they've given him out, but if not, he's been in, like, he's in the key pools and stuff like that now. Embrace the Vision Seth is perhaps the best striker for feuding in the game, if you have his moments. And I get with that one, there's a caveat. But again, that moment alone opened up so many characters, not just Miz, and you go, I didn't get him, but you've got that one, and that one, and now they're 100% better.
Right. And yes, so that's an overall roster improvement that free-to-play players did not have access to. Moments were very rare and paywalled months ago.
They introduced them and they were like the top thing, but they're and they still are as they introduce them, but they've become more accessible, and you're talking
in the
characters that
shop.
were exactly.
So they're essentially available to free-to-play players now on a prevalent basis, because you roughly earn enough coins during showdown events to save and buy yourself that WrestleMania 38 moment is in the showdown shop, bro. That's a game changer. That's a
so are shards for old chases that are still not outdated. Some are.
Not all of them. D-Lo, Nikita Lyon is one of my favorite. I don't have D-Lo yet. I'm still chasing his shards. So that tells you about when I maxed and when I didn't. So here's what I wrote in the chat. Let me just make a confession. Okay, Lee? Okay. I don't think it's a secret. But in case I'm anyone's hero out there, let me just dispel a rumor. Let me dispel the myth. My first MLC to max, if you've been a long-time listener, you know this. It was September last year. It was the NXT month. My first chase superstar that I ever recruited was Nikita Lyon.
I remember.
I didn't think it was possible to max the month as a free-to-play player, but in reality, I did not play the game very well. That's on me. I'm not pointing fingers at you, friend. I'm not pointing fingers at you, friends. I'm saying I did not play the game very well because I played it in my spare time. I played, like I said, Magic the Gathering, got the majority of my bandwidth. I was watching Magic tournaments on Twitch instead of Champions content. I was not doing any trivia on the portal. I was not trying to accrue web coins. I wasn't doing my stip tours because I thought they were a waste of time. I wasn't incrementally building up my IOW promoters to get higher scores. I wasn't I was convinced I was convinced that I just wasn't a good feuder and my feud scores were never going to be over 20 million. I was just convinced there was a mental barrier there for me, right? I was convinced that the superstars I had weren't good enough to actually play competitively. And so I relegated my own outcome in the game to my lack of effort in the game. And I would have loved to collect better rewards, but I knew I belonged in a casual faction because I was a casual player. Not only was I a free-to-play player, I was a casual player that loved to chat in the chats, but didn't ever look at a blog, didn't ever know where things were. I wouldn't even know. I didn't get Apollo Creed, right? I didn't.
That's gonna hurt you for.
I don't even remember.
Anyway, never mind.
I don't even remember the Rocky event because I didn't participate. I didn't go hard in it, right? Yeah. You know who that's on? That's not on Scopely for not giving me more free stuff. That's on me for being a lackadaisical player.
Yeah.
And
But it is a
that's
game, and you should
where
play it at
I
the level that
was.
you want to be at. So, I mean, that does make sense. I would, the flip side for what Hip's defense of it is yeah, you do have to spend for things. So I've got somebody who's messaged me a number of times that they did a few megas and didn't get Trish, and I keep having to remind them like, okay, Trish is S plus tier elite, like super
Right.
paywalled version. So if you're spending 3 megas and you don't get her, you can't. That's not something to be upset about. That's the way they designed this. That's for the people who are going to spend, and some people legitimately expected to spend $1,000 to $2,000 to get Trish. So if you're a free to play player,
Oof.
you cannot be upset that you didn't get Trish because that's not who she's designed for. That's a different reality.
Right.
So I think it comes down to expectation management, and I think you want to talk a
Yes.
little bit about that
Yes.
because if you're in a certain spending category, playing category, like if you are a casual, very casual player, you expect to get casual rewards. It's not that, oh gosh, you should give all of your time to champions. It's just recognizing that's where I am, and I expect
Yeah.
I'm going to get this amount for what I'm putting into it. So Rusty, talk about expectation management.
Yeah, just totally. So one of the things that can ruin your experience as a free to play player is um, being in a faction that's more competitive than you can be, right? It's everybody wants to be getting top rewards. Everybody wants to get the most out of the game. But if you are also not putting a lot into it, as I was not, right? So this is me talking about me. I don't want anyone out there to feel like I'm busting on them in any way.
Right.
I'm talking about
Yeah.
me. I had to be in a faction that that celebrated the wins we got instead of focusing on the wins we did not get. I had to be
Say
in a
that again.
faction. Yeah, I had to be, and I loved my time in the Black Pearl because we
Mm.
celebrated the wins that we got. We did not define our happiness in the game by what we did not get. We didn't
Oof.
focus on missed rewards.
Oof.
We didn't focus on missed milestones. We didn't focus on, oh, well, that next chest, we need everyone to spend X amount, or we need everyone to grind. That wasn't part of the conversation. It was
Right.
like, hey, cool, look what I got. Sweet. Cool, look what I got. Sweet. And it was typically like, you know, um, what I would probably say now, not the most exciting rewards, but they were the only rewards that I saw at the time.
Right.
So they
Right.
were easy to celebrate the things that we were getting, right? If somebody did a pull and actually spent and got something, it was like awesome. It's like
Yeah.
one of our teammates had hit treasure, rare
Right.
treasure, right?
Yep.
So yeah, so if you're in a faction family that has a brag room
Yeah.
and you're not spending, don't walk in the brag room. Don't go in there.
Right.
It's like me walking in a showroom and I want, you know what I want so badly? I want a new Ford Maverick truck. I want one
Oh.
so bad. But if I were to go to the local Ford dealer and look at the Broncos and look at the classic Broncos and look at the Mavericks and look at the upgraded packages and the trims, you know which of those vehicles I can currently afford? None of them.
That's
I'm
right.
in
Me
grad
too.
school. My wife's in grad school. It's just not going to happen, right? It's not going to happen. A new vehicle with a high trim package is so like walking in that Ford dealership is me scrolling the brag room, right? Endlessly and realizing this ain't for you. You're not in position to get these things
Right.
because now every day I avoid the Ford dealership, I have a good day. Every single day. Every day I don't walk in that showroom and see those Broncos or those Mavericks, I have a great day. I enjoy my life. I enjoy my little car that I drive. But comparison is the thief of joy. It is a killer. Comparison is the thief of joy. It will take you to a place where you are miserable. You feel like you're getting nothing. You're not getting what they're getting. You're left out. You're left behind. You're losing this game. You're not advancing at the rate that others are.
Right.
But in reality, you're playing at your pace and doing the best you can. And if you're free to play, yes, the pace will be different. The MLC pace will be different. When you get Ozzy will be different. When you get Tiffy will be different. You may not be able to play in the premium showdown this month, but if you can exhale and relax, you will still get Tiffy through gameplay, through engagement, through grinding it out. And so that's where like I'm just not, like I have to do the things that protect my mental health and my emotional energy. And Lee, if I got invited to a top faction today, let's say top 3 faction, I would think it was the thrill of a lifetime until I realized I was in their bottom 10 numerically, and that I couldn't toe the line and keep the pace, and I couldn't spin like they spent, and I couldn't produce like they produced, and I couldn't. So it's like somebody wrote in the chat, this is the best TED Talk I've ever heard. I love it. So that's where I'm just like, I've got to play with my faction at the level that I'm playing and enjoying, and I've got free-to-play players in my faction to help keep me grounded, and I've got exorbitant spenders in my faction to help keep me humble. So I'm nowhere near what they are, where my roster is. So I've gone on a little bit of a thing, Lee, but expectations are really
this
important.
Is good. This is really, and it's something. Okay, so we did hit on this before, but it's been a while, and more people are tuned in now than ever, and things like that. But we talked about it when William Regal's gear was available. I had William Regal, not now, but the last time, months and months and months ago. I had William Regal. They made his gear available, but it was literally, I think the cheapest you could spend to get it was like $600 or $700, $500, and I just could not do that. And we talked about that on that episode, the reality of like what in my life would be different if I had William Regal's gear. I mean, I still have a top character. I'm still happy where I am. Things are working out. Would I play better? Yes. Now, we had somebody who, as far as I know, no longer plays the game, reach out to me, and at the time I thought he was agreeing and was like, yeah, life wouldn't be better at all, and he sent a screenshot of him with both of William Regal's gears. And what he was saying was, no, I enjoy this game far more than you do. You don't understand. But the reality is...
Wait, throw some salt in your eyes. Remember the old Mr. Fuji salt in the eyes?
Ready? Hold on. Ready?
Spit the green mist right in your face, like a great Muda.
Yeah, and I mean, the reality is, he is right in the sense that, I would have enjoyed it more. Would I have enjoyed the game $500 or $600 more? I didn't have it. I literally had to just go, you know what? If these become available to me, I will enjoy them. But if these are holding back my enjoyment in life, I have put my hope in the wrong thing, friendo.
Yeah, Lee, and that's where you go. You're a parent, you're a husband, so like, and this is so funny, right? Getting that Regal gear would not have helped your shoes, helped your kids tie their shoes that weekend, would not have helped my shoes. It wouldn't have helped potty train your children. So these are things that actually make life better, right?
Yeah.
It wouldn't have made your wife swoon and be like, oh, husband, dear, I'm so impressed with you.
Look at that William
throw
Regal
myself
gear.
into
Hey
your
there.
She wouldn't throw herself into your arms, for a romantic evening because
I can't believe your multiply gems are 4 more. Come get me.
So it's like, okay, the quality of game can be better. The quality of life cannot be.
That's right.
The quality of game can be better. If your job sucks and you don't like your boss and you're miserable on the job day after day, and you play champions to drown out the pain and misery of real life, getting the gear, getting the superstar will not erase the frustration that you feel with your real life.
Right.
And so it's important that we know that spinning the loot and getting the coveted poster, your boss is still going to be a total tool, right? Your job's still going to suck.
Wow.
Or whatever it
Wow.
is, right? So for a moment, you'll have a hit
Euphoria.
of, what is that called? Dopamine. You'll have a
Yeah.
dopamine release in your brain.
Yep.
But once you look up from the screen, all of your garbage, right, that you're trying to avoid is still going to be in your life.
Yeah.
And no one has
yes.
I'm not saying anyone is garbage. I'm not saying anyone has a garbage life. I'm not saying, let me just, I don't want to be too harsh, but all I'm saying is, like, so even as a spender, right? There are things that are going to need your attention and your money more than this game. And so FOMO, the fear of missing out, will ruin your mental health.
Yep.
It will decimate your mental health.
Yep.
It will shred it like cheese in a grinder, and you will have nothing left but the parm on the floor, right? If you take it too serious. If you take this game becomes life, suddenly, if the game becomes life and you're missing out on the game, not only does your boss suck and your job suck, but now the game sucks. And
Right.
now you can't cope at all,
Yeah.
right? That's where it's really dangerous to get this enmeshment all together.
That's a word.
Ooh, somebody wrote in the chat, stop calling me out, man.
Right. Well, Rusty, I hear you say what you're not saying. Do you know what I am saying? I am saying when I get that William Regal gear, I'm going to go up to my wife and go, hey, baby, I start loaded with 4 more MP now on all moves. What do you think? And she's going to go,
loaded.
What's wrong with you?
I start loaded now, babe.
I start loaded with 4 more MP on all my moves. How you like that now?
NXT link.
I got 4 times multiply gems up in here. My wife's actually calling me right now. She heard. Okay.
She's swooning. This is the opiate of the masses.
Right.
Yeah. You mute and you take this, because this might be a booty call. You might need to take that. He's like, don't say that. She can hear you. So friends, we think that free to play has it better than ever because we've both been free to play. We think that free to play has more rewards, more superstars, more straps, more gear, more tokens, more loot, more coins, more TP than at any point in history they've ever gotten. And I would say this, at times I represent this game into a level, an official capacity, official level. I would say this, I think that those up the ladder value and consider the free-to-play player more than they ever have, right? So if you need someone from Scopely to tell you that, I feel like I can at times represent them, and I think I'm being sincere and authentic when I say that. I think they value and consider the free-to-play player more than they ever have in this season. Lee, would you agree with that?
I heard about half of what you said because I was, talking to the wife. She heard about the 4 MP and she was like, hey there, I got called into work. Oh, well, never mind. Anyway, I do. I think that they are paying more attention to the free-to-play player than they had in the past. Now, when you go from what some would argue to be low consideration of to some consideration of, it may not feel to everybody like you've come all the way there, but it's I think it's good. And I think we have had people in our Discord server who are 100% free to play say, this is my better time. I still hold up, this is the best time to get jumped into this Champions experience. And heck, if you are watching us because you saw an Ozzy Osbourne video and went, what is this? That's right. Well, we need to transition to you guys on Twitch right now. won't see or hear this, so make sure you check out the audio version. But we have not a public spotlight. We have a spotlight segment for the next 15-ish minutes. And then for those live, we're magically just going to be talking about WWE TV. But for everybody else, you're going to hear our spotlight with Two Bob. All right. Well, welcome back to Community Spotlights. We haven't done this in a little while, but we have an amazing, fun player in our community. So, To Bob, you are well known throughout the community. You're one of the top feuders. You lead one of the top factions. Where else can we go from there? So, I've kind of already set you up, but why don't you introduce yourself a little bit too?
Sure. For those of you that don't know, to Bob 29 here. Hello, everybody. I'm the leader of TNM. Have been since essentially the inception of the faction. I've had a couple of co-leaders alongside with me when we first opened back up in 2018. We're doing great right now, honestly. I'm very happy and content with how everything's been rolling. Myself, when it comes to feuding, I don't know, man. I have like an inner desire to kind of enjoy the game, hang out in voice chat, hang out with
Nice.
the folks that are in the faction. And I try to, I don't know, man. I get like a lot of joy when I could help other people out. When I see a lot of folks that are struggling in feud and I can try to help them with their own feud lineups, and I got messages along the lines of like, hey, Bob, I just broke my high score in war score. I broke 30 million feud or 50 million feud, or I finally broke 100 million. And it's like, I get a lot of sense of joy and accomplishment knowing that I could help somebody out to reach
Nice.
those milestones that they have. It's a real fun feeling being able to help people out, especially in this game.
Well, let's go there first. So on your stream, the Two Bob Lounge, by the way, if you're not following
Yeah.
him on Twitch, we'll give him a chance to plug all of his sources here before we're done. But you've done kind of feud lineup help, assistance and stuff. Now, feud, since we have done our last episode on how do you feud well, there's been a number of changes. And this week, we're not trying to make this time sensitive, but we're recording this around the time of the Sammy feud where it's incorporating a lot more faction elements. So feuds
Yes.
have changed here and there over the last couple of years.
Oh
What
yeah.
are some rapid fire best practices to really get the most out of feud?
The number one thing that I will tell every single person in the game, it doesn't matter whether you're in the top faction, top 100 faction, or someone that's not in the top faction at all, find yourself a partner. Find yourself a partner that can go your pace. Because
There
the
you go.
last thing that you want is to be waiting for somebody. And the second to last thing that you want is that your partner is so much quicker than you that they end up just taking your line because they don't want to sit there and wait.
Right.
It is the most frustrating thing. So learn what your pace is, go your pace. If you're trying to get faster, there's tips and tricks that can help you out. There's people that will help your roster grow, I myself included. Um, but the number one thing that you have to do is definitely find yourself a partner. Definitely
Nice.
find yourself a partner. Uh, Outside of that, focus those promoters. I know everyone kind of says it and beats it to senseless almost. But get your promoters. Get your promoters. Level them up. Make sure that you're actually putting enough effort and time into setting your lineup instead of doing it in the middle of feud. Just a couple of tips and tricks that seem silly, but man, everybody from the top on down does the same things.
Right.
So get yourself ready, get yourself a partner, and get yourself comfortable. Get yourself a couple of snacks, a happy Rusev Day coffee mug drink, enjoy yourself that you can get comfy, and just kick back and relax and have a fun time.
Nice. Nice. Okay. Well, so you were one of the ones instrumental in helping us kind of figure out what we now use as the power rating, and I
Yeah.
think really helped you and one other who really helped shape the feud aspect of that, because it is one of the, I mean, it's the only mode that we get multiple times per month on a weekend contest. So one of the elements that you brought into that specifically was, a 5 is you can win a feud in 45 seconds or less, a 4, blah, blah, blah. So talk to me about if somebody maybe has those tips and tricks down, but they're like, man, how do I make sure I'm winning in a minute? Like that seems like a lofty goal for some. How do I get 1 minute feud wins
Yeah, so
every
that's
week?
that's a that's a really good question. First and foremost, you got to know what your roster can do versus what everyone else's roster can do.
That's great.
Don't set yourself up for failure. Don't tell yourself I have to spend a crazy amount of money to get the brand new fancy character out there. Don't tell yourself that you need to spend crazy to get the strap or the skill plate or the gear. You don't need these types of things. I have members that are in my faction that use, Zombie Taker from 2018, 2019 when he first came out. They still use
Wow.
him today because they have the bells and whistles for him.
Nice.
They use Eric Bishop. They use a lot of these characters that they're not the meta characters that you just one button, two button click and you win. Those are obviously nice and those are huge, but you have to get into a rhythm that you're comfortable with. And to kind of touch base on that, I'm an Eddie Guerrero mark. I love
Okay.
Eddie Guerrero as a character. When we were back in 4-star days, I used to love using Acrobat Eddie Guerrero. He was great. All you had to do is click a button, click a button. But nowadays that that's not his gimmick anymore. You have to kind of move with the times with your characters. And if they can keep up, that's wonderful. If they can't, you have to know where to kind of leave them behind. But in regards to getting a consistent 1 minute win, set your roster up where you're not encountering all of the 6-star golds with all of the minus MP and the minus multi. The higher that you bring your roster talent, the rougher your opponents are going to be. That's probably not the goal for you. The goal is probably going to be bring in maybe 4 or 5 people instead of a 9-person lineup that's 300K. You don't want to do that. Bring in 4 to 5 people, 150K, 180K, somewhere in that range, even maybe a little bit lower is fine, and use the characters that you're comfortable using. And one final thing is a lot of folks are very I don't know what to say about this. I guess adamant is probably the best word in regards to how they set their moves up. Some
Okay.
people like running top down, other people like running down up. There's no issue with either which way, but if you're trying to pick up that couple extra seconds of speed, if you run top down, something that you'll learn with the game is you don't have to actually click into the move to use your first move.
Yeah.
So if you just order them 1, 2, 3, you just click your moves and you click use. Any click that you can get rid of off of your consistent timer, as silly as it sounds,
Yeah.
helps you go a little bit quicker. So if you move it in order of 1, 2, 3 instead of 3, 2, 1, you don't have to click move 3 and then use and then move 2 and then use. You can just click into your moves. It's your first move. You don't have to click it. You click into moves, you click your use button. And it seems silly, but every second that you can spare is a huge difference maker. And that'll be a big win for those of you that are trying to get your wins in under a minute.
That's awesome. And for those who don't know, Tubob has been among, if not oftentimes, the top number one in feud. I mean, there are multiple. I've seen you on leaderboards for anything from Flash feud to regular feud as the number one spot. So listen in. Like this isn't just like, oh, maybe this works. Like this is really it. So let me ask you on that basis, you
Sure,
personally, do you,
sure.
because you've got a roster that you can run 500 k and still win quick. Do you run a 150K lineup, or do you personally run a larger lineup and get all of those unique wins?
Oh man, you're putting me on the spot here. So, so it's I will be very transparent and say this. It depends on the feud.
Perfect.
That is
Makes
that is
sense.
the truest answer that I can give you. There are some feuds that I will have a partner that is just not comfortable running 300K, and
Right.
it makes more sense to run in the 150, 180K range to just get the quick wins in and get them
Right.
over with. I have other times where my partner is very gung ho and wants to go and put in 8 characters, and we're going to run a 280, 300K lineup, and we just go because there's nothing that's going to stop us.
Sure.
So I don't think there's a blanket answer for that one as much as I'd love to say it. I think I'm probably leaning more towards the side of the 20-hour feuds. You run a big lineup with a confident partner, and the flash feuds, you typically run a not lower as in, 20K
Right.
or something,
Right.
but maybe 150, 180K in the flash feuds.
Right.
And you bang out 5 to 6 wins with your partner, and you just get into the next match.
Gotcha.
But to piggyback on the other point I was talking about, it's all about the partner. Try to be in an atmosphere that you can communicate openly with your partner. You want to be able to talk to your partner and say, "I'm going into the queue right now," or let them know that you're finishing up your final match, or that you're stuck, or that they had an escape artist plate if you're using a sub, or an anti-stun if you're using a stun. Something along those lines that you want to openly communicate with your partner, because you don't want them to be locked up. You don't want to be locked up. You need to have that open communication with them, to kind of really utilize how high up there you can get when it comes to scoring on those leaderboards.
That makes sense. And speaking to scoring on the leaderboards, when you're in, a top faction and one of the top leaderboarders, you tend to get some polarizing reactions in the community, and that's not without you've gotten some polarizing reactions from some people. So care to this is the humanizing moment here. Care to address those who love you, those who hate you. What kind of makes that polarizing reputation in a community? Not just for you, but like, because you're by far not the only one.
No.
There tends to that in this game, other games, that tends to happen more so with those who play near the top than others.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, again, I apologize if you lose any views because I'm here. No, so yeah, the polarizing thing is it's a weird one for me, man. I was saying this before. I've been saying it for so long. If I have this many people that love me or hate me, I gotta be doing something right.
There you go.
That's the only thing I can possibly say. I know that a lot of people kind of enjoy having someone to look up to or to look down at. I know a lot of individuals, like I was talking about before with the feud clinics, all go out of their way to message me and let me know when they get their high score and war score of 30 mil, 50 mil, 100 mil. And that's like a looking up to thing, which is great to know. And I take a great sense of accomplishment knowing that I had helped someone enjoy their game even more.
Right.
I also know that, yeah, there's definitely some other folks out there that are very polarizing folks. A lot of people have a lot of things that they want to say about a lot of things in this game. This is a very communication heavy game that some people have either nothing but positive things to say, nothing but negative things to say, and they got a loud voice and they're going to use it. I myself am one of those loud voices. Um, and it just comes with the territory, man. I think honestly, at the end of the day, if I wasn't the leader at TNM, I probably wouldn't have as much to say as I do.
Yeah.
But because I do try to speak on behalf of a lot of folks, as you mentioned it, in a top faction, it gets to be at that point where, because I'm the mouthpiece, I definitely get a lot of the flack that comes with it,
Right.
and that's okay. I'm all here for it. I've heard it once before. I've heard it a dozen times before. I'm gonna hear it a dozen more times, and that's fine by me. My ultimate goal, I've said it since day one. I've said it to you guys since day one. I want to help the game out. That's my ultimate goal. I want to do what I can to help make the game a better place. And I appreciate you for even letting me have this platform to be able to help you guys out on your own podcast. This is an awesome feeling. I
Yeah.
used to do my own little podcast thing forever ago, and the fact that it's still rolling, I think the game is in a fantastic spot for podcasting. And I appreciate you letting me actually help you guys out with it. I take a great sense of honor with it. And
Oh,
I thank you guys for keeping the positivity and spreading the positivity as much as you guys do. It is very, very needed in this game.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And yeah. I mean, just a quick aside because I don't want to eat up. We're close on our time, but I
Sure.
want to make sure you get more time than I get time to talk. But yeah, I mean,
Sure.
like when we were just starting this podcast. In fact, we're doing a new series where some of the episodes of the podcast that never made it to YouTube, that only have audio because we used to record. Literally, this was my microphone for so long. Not
Oh, and there it goes.
they sound like garbage. They're dated. They're funny, but we're actually putting them out over loopholes that I've never, I've pulled here and there. Like, oh, I'll just do a quick, or key pulls or whatever. It doesn't matter, that I never actually put out. So that way, because there's nothing visual to them. So I was going back and listening to those and just thinking, like, man, like you had Two Bob's Lounge before that. You had like just thinking like how far this has come. It's crazy, to be honest. Well, I want to make sure we've only got a couple minutes, but I want to make sure one big question. We've talked on the podcast a number of times about rewards based factions or family based factions. Like basically, are you chasing a certain goal and therefore there's certain minimums people hit, or is it like, hey, we're okay if you disappear for a bit. We just care, that the family kind of stays together. So for TNM, again, one of the top factions, and there's no right or wrong, and we've said that on the podcast. It's just a recognizing this is what that faction is going for and you want to line up or not line up. So if somebody were saying like, hey, not just a top faction, but like in that like top of the top type factions, what does it take? And I'm not recruiting for TNM, but I'm just saying, what does it take to be in a faction like TNM?
So we have changed our requirements through the years. Initially, it was a very standard 1% thing, where it became a task for a lot of folks to hit 1%. We had about 30% of the faction who just couldn't hit 1%
Gotcha.
on a regular enough basis. And then that kind of morphed into, okay, well, 1% is good, but it's not really good enough, for what a lot of the folks that wanted to be a part of the faction wanted.
Right.
There was a desire from enough members that were like, we know we can do better, therefore we will do better.
Right.
And then that very swiftly moved from, instead of having just bare minimums or 1% as the minimum, as in, don't be last. That's really what it came down to. Don't be in the bottom one, don't be in the bottom three, don't be in the bottom five, don't be in the bottom 10 type of mentality. And as a standalone faction, because we don't have a family faction, it's very difficult to just be like, well, you didn't do so great this month. We'll move you to the second faction. You can work your way up from there. And then when you are back in the rhythm of everything, then you can come back up to us. So it's become real difficult in that regards of not having a faction family, of trying to gauge where everyone should be, where everyone wants to be, where everyone as a whole of the faction would like us to be. And throughout the years, we've gone from, 12th place, 10th place, 7th place, 5th place, and now we're up at the podium because that's what everybody wants to be.
Gotcha.
So it's a double-edged sword of, there's no real perfect minimums of just saying get your 1% and then hang it up, because 1% for you might also be 98th place in the faction if everybody gets a bug up there, and decides to really put the effort in that week, that midweek, that event, whatever it is. And the flip side is still also very true. Life happens. Everyone has to remember this is a game, and life still happens. So if there's something going on, there's always an availability to talk to us, to let us know, I'm not going to be on the game in the next 2.5 weeks. I'm going on a cruise. I'm not going to
Nice.
be on for, the final 3 weeks of the month because I'm going out of town and some
Right.
unfortunate stuff happened with the family. Like, we're not here to harp on you and make your entire gaming experience a responsibility or a horrible experience. Just communicate, right? And we're more than willing to accommodate. I think this is the fourth consecutive month that we've had people that have stepped out, and then people that have stepped out that are coming back into the faction because they have the time to dedicate and to play again. And there's
Nice.
no love lost. I don't take any offense to that. It's a game. Everyone's supposed to play it to have some fun, you know.
Nice.
So yeah, there's a balance there. It's not the easiest, just make sure you get your 6% in every event,
Oof.
there's none of that, right? You do
Right.
your share. You try to stay out of 100th place. No one wants to be number 100 in a 100-person faction. And if there's stuff going on, just let us know. We're more than amicable to helping everybody out as best as we can.
Nice. Well, we're pretty much up on time, but I want to make sure you get a chance to plug where people can find you, and you wanted to give a minute to the prize wall, and I don't think we ended up hitting that and everything. So
Sure.
if you want to give your thoughts on that midweek prize wall.
Yeah, sure. So really quick, I guess, before we hang up here, the midweek prize wall, I think, in regards to everybody, man, I think it's fantastic. I think everybody from the everyday player that's going to just play without even spending a dime, that doesn't have to be in a top 3, top 20, top 100 even faction. There's enough there for the majority of the players to get something out of it. We always talk about how there's something, whether it's a gear, a skill plate, a strap, a moment, a character, whatever it is, there's definitely something there. This particular month, I think we were talking about it before we even went live with The Miz. I think we both agree that The Miz is probably the best character this month, which is kind of crazy to say.
Easily. Yeah.
And with that moment, which most people should be able to get just for playing, he is really something special. He packs that punch.
Oh, yeah.
And even for the folks that are way up there on the spending side of things, there's enough on that wall to incentivize anyone and everyone in between. I think the fact that they took what was supposed to be a midweek and turned it into a month-long wall incentivizes players to want to play more, whether it's for that moment or for players to want to spend more if it's for those top tier items. I think it's a big win. I think that that's something they definitely will keep, hopefully, is what I'm crossing my fingers for. And it seems like it should definitely be something that they would want to keep if it's bringing in enough money for them, to put it kindly.
Nice.
That's my quick little thoughts on the prize wall. If you're looking for more Tubop content, by the way, I stream almost every week on twitch.tv/Tubop29. I'm debating if I want to get any content going on YouTube. It's just a lot of work, so I don't really do all of that. The more that I hang out with Lee and Rusty, the more I realize how much effort and time they actually put into this, and it is just astonishing to me. It is absolutely astonishing to me, and I commend them tremendously for it. But yeah, if you're looking for more Tubop content, twitch.tv/Tubop29. I'm live pretty much every Monday, about an hour after reset, whatever time that is for you. For me, it's 4 p.m. Eastern. And I occasionally go live in the middle of the week with whether it's more champions or more regular content from some other games. But Lee, thank you very much for having me here today.
Well, thank you. And to those listening, we're going to have a resurgence of these spotlight segments, a few of them over the next coming weeks. So make sure you keep tuning into the podcast. Check out Two Bob's Lounge on Twitch, and we'll see you on the next one. And we're back. Rusty, what did you think about that wonderful spotlight that you actually still haven't heard because it's not live yet?
It just felt like time stood still for me. I mean, it was so incredible. So yeah, it was really, really good. Lee, we've been getting comments on this free to play subject. Can I just acknowledge, and we're not going to go back into the subject. Can I just acknowledge though, regardless of where you're at in the game, it's fun to talk about. It's fun to talk about this game. It's the reason we have this little show. It's the reason we are content creators. It's the reason we go live on Twitch on Friday night. And I love that the free-to-play community they're just kind of like the scrappy underdogs of the Champions community. And I always want to be for them. I always want to make content that's relevant to them. I always want to, right?
Yeah. We're here for the whales. We're here for the guppies. We're here for those who are tadpoles.
Everyone in between. And I like this comment that came out. It's just that I was free to play for 4 years. Now I'm cheap to play and having a great time. I thought that was an interesting way to frame it. So you can be cheap to play as well. Lee, we've got a series of events that have transpired in the real world of professional wrestling that have left me both impressed, amused, befuddled, confused. This is the first time in wrestling where I don't know where it's headed. I usually know where it's headed. I usually can see, okay, this person said that. That means a feud is starting. That means that 4 weeks they'll face each other at a pay-per-view. That means that, so typically there was a formula that was very predictable, very easy. But Lee, I have no idea. The Wyatt Six, how are they actually going to be used in matches? Lee, John Cena now has announced his retirement tour will be beginning, and then he's going to come back for like 40 dates through 2025. And I'm
50
going,
first dates. Yeah.
What? John Cena is back. He's going to be back, I'm assuming, in the main event scene.
Yeah.
The Bloodline 2.0, now that Heyman is out, they are, unapologetically the top heel stable now. And yet they're all brand new guys that didn't even go through NXT. Some were in NXT, some were not. Some were outsiders to the industry. They came from afar.
Veterans. They're just not veterans in this company.
Yes. Let's call them indie darlings, or let's call them, the what was it called? The Forbidden Door, has been busted open now, and people are coming and going through it like never before, right? They set up this Cody Rock put something secret in his hand, right? And then they've been saying, like, we'll see you at SummerSlam, but like like in that interview, right? Whereas Rock's like, I'm gonna go away for now, but you'll see me again, Cody. Like that. Months ago, they teased.
I forgot about that.
It was gonna be Rock, Cody at SummerSlam. So
well, SummerSlam's in like a few weeks now. It's crazy.
Which makes me ask, is The Rock the actual tribal chief? By orders of the tribal chief, is it actually the final boss, Rock?
I hope so.
It's going to be revealed this month, and he's going to face Cody at SummerSlam as the head of the Bloodline.
I hope so, to be honest. I mean, Solo is doing an admirable job, but Solo has zero charisma. Like, he is a great enforcer. He is a terrible head of the table. I am more interested in every other person in the new Bloodline than I am Solo. If it turns out Rock is behind it, you need that charismatic, like Roman didn't have that over-the-top charisma that The Rock did. He had this like subtle Mafia Don charisma that made you kind of go, ooh, that's kind of, that gets you. But Rock coming back and revealing himself to be the head of the table would be phenomenal. And then it would be so fun because they were going to try to build WrestleMania around Rock versus Roman with Rock as the good guy and Roman as the bad guy. The reality that blows my mind is when Roman Reigns comes back, he's the good guy in the story, no matter what. Like, unless they screw it up, and let's not let that reality happen. It's crazy.
How are we in a world where now stadiums full of people cheer, we want Roman. We want Roman. I've never thought that would be a thing.
Right.
When crowds wanted Roman Reigns.
Yep.
The guy that was pushed when they didn't want him to be pushed.
Right.
Right? Same with Cena, right? The fans just, it's like, and it could happen to Cody. It could very well happen to Cody at some point where fans just, I'm tired of this push. I'm tired of this push.
I mean, it's going to happen sooner than later if they don't do, I mean, like, he hasn't had he needs a Roman level opponent. He needs a final boss level opponent. He's not being challenged right now. And the fact that they had R.I.P. Solo pin him is a good sign. Like, they're trying to build that up. And as a collective, the new Bloodline is intimidating. But Solo as an individual is not on Cody's level. And Cody looks lesser for fighting Solo, whereas he looked amazing fighting Roman. So, yeah.
Yeah, you gotta have big bads to create big goods, right? You gotta have
Right.
monster heels to put a baby face really over. Hey,
Right.
Lee, do you think they know where it's all headed? Do you think they're writing way in advance, or do you think they're doing week to week booking?
No, 100%. I mean, you can see like Triple H almost to the extreme opposite of what the previous, generation of leadership did. Seems like he'll set a plan in place a year in advance and will not deviate from it, or he'll come, like, if bumps in the road happen, he'll come right back to it. It's like, the previous administration, things like the DIY, team, they would have pushed him to the top immediately and then got bored with them and then thrown him to the side, and we'd never see him again. They'd be in a tag team battle royale, or something. Whereas Triple H let them simmer, and now they're the tag team champions, and now you're going to start to see them go. Or even just like with Rhea, Rhea got injured. They kept that story going through sheer determination and, some decent pivoting. Pivot, and it's phenomenal. Like he's doing such a good job. There are some things I wish they would move faster on, like the Wyatt Six. I am caring less about them because they're not in my face, right? But when they do finally get there, you're going to have longed for them and want to see them instead of go, the administration's going to get tired of them in 2 weeks, so don't get your heart invested.
I don't know what it means, but I really like that Bo showed up in Adam Pearce's office with no mask on and he was just sitting there this week on WWE. That to me, that was the most encouraging sign that like this could actually go somewhere, versus like, it's gonna be, because I like early on I thought Bray would still wrestle without the Fiend mask. I thought he would take it off. Right. And then, but it was like, no, leave it on. Right.
Yeah. The Fiend was too over. Right.
Yeah. It was an odd, and I, that's neither here nor there. I love Bray so much and what he's doing, but I wondered if that was as intended, or if that was a management wants you to leave the mask on, man. You gotta go out in it tonight.
Well, there's been lots of conversation around the fact that Bray was, his creative juices did not mesh with some of the previous leadership, and so I think Bray would have thrived under Triple H's leadership. I mean, the long-term storytelling that he was doing and the things that he wanted to do with it, and and it was very much more like, no, let's just get to this, let's just get it done, come on, let's go. Like, I don't know if you've ever had a manager that does that to you. I literally had one at one time who'd go, okay, come on, let's go. Like, it didn't encourage me to give my best. It was like, whatever, just get this thing done. And not saying that Bray was innocent, because there's stories of how he was difficult creative. How many of those are planted? Who knows? It's neither here nor there. But look at what Triple H is doing with his brother Bo, and you start to see, like, this would have been given time to simmer. This would have been given time to get to the right, like, our culture wants microwave, right? But the difference between the microwave and the oven is what comes out of the oven is loving, and what comes out of the microwave is, okay, whatever, it got it done. Let's move on, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't understand where Bailey is. I don't know what's going on there.
That's the disadvantage side. Yeah.
I could see Tiffy cashing in now.
That'd be weird. 2 cash-ins that quick.
Yeah, but like, what is Bailey doing? Right. Is she hurt? Maybe she's hurt.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a weird. Wrestling just feels really unpredictable right now, which it shouldn't, because it's probably more predictable than it's been in the last decade, and yet I'm still going, where are they going with this?
Right.
Where does this lead? How? I don't know. I've really enjoyed the evolution of Dominic into full on Latin lover, Eddie Guerrero, Latino heat. I mean, he is Eddie Guerrero's spitting image. I love it. And I think, so like, here's the last thing I'll say about Dominic is, like, people are saying, well, hey, they repeat storylines. This reminds me of Eddie and China. This
Right.
week, Dominic's going to show up with flowers. I don't think they're just reusing a storyline. I think, if anything, they're letting him have an homage to his hero.
Yeah.
And play into, kind of like they did with the Star Wars movies, repeat the cycle in a way that honors the previous story. That's what I think is similar to where it's like samey, but intentionally samey, not lazy samey.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I go back to it, but there's a kid that's here that's gotten into wrestling, and all he wants to talk about is Liv and Dom, and it's so. He's 8 years old.
Nope.
It's his world. It's so
Sorry,
intriguing
kid.
to him.
Sorry, kid. That mustache is rated R.
But now that Rhea's back, I know I'm gonna get a talk with him this week where did you see Rhea come back? I bet you she's gonna, they kind of did it complex, even though I felt like the feed cut off a little too quick, but they kind of had it where Rhea was like, are you doing this on purpose? He's like, no love, I'm here for you. And she was like, okay. I don't think it's gonna be an immediate, like, she's just gonna destroy Dominic. Like, she's gonna try. Like, they're gonna go through couples counseling. They're gonna see, whatever. And then finally, when you're just like, would you just realize that he's bad for you? Then she's gonna like stomp on his head and become the conquering hero, and we're gonna love her even more.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. The road to SummerSlam is heating up, and I am out of time for today.
Me too.
So,
I know. We'll talk next time.
Thanks for doing this. Thanks for jumping on stream with us, guys, and thanks
Yeah.
for listening to our podcast today. We're going to push out these assets as time allows, but I'm on vacation, and Lee is in the middle of some really important life stuff. So bear with us if you don't see something as quick as you'd like. But let me just say this finally. Please join us Friday night, tomorrow night on Twitch, because we are going to power rate this new Ozzy Osbourne that you are so excited about. Come on.
Yeah, I love it. I'm excited about it too, and appreciate you guys. Gotta go. Gotta splice this in. I'll try and get it out tonight, and we will see you tomorrow night on the stream. Bye. Oh, there it is. The button hasn't clicked. I re-clicked the unclicked button.